Charley Casserly joins us now on the Dan Patrick Show. Charlie, how are you, buddy?
Boy, how you doing?
Doing good, and we've been talking a lot about one of your favorite topics, the Johnny Manziel, Brian Hoyer conundrum. Who would you choose based on what you've seen so far?
Hoyer. I don't think it's close. I thought that, in the first game, I think Hoyer was 6 out of 14, but he had 4 balls that were in the hands of the receivers. Three were drops, 1 was a defended ball. Last night, again, depending upon if you're Mrs. Hoyer, Mom Hoyer, he had 4 drops. Okay, if you're the receiver, Dad or Mom, they were bad throws. So, but in other words, he made the right read. The first one last night, you don't know why the receiver didn't turn around on that one there. The second one, the ball is low, should have been a better throw, but it could have been caught. He had the touchdown to Artrell Hawkins, which is, you got to make that throw, but you also got to make the catch. So he had 4 balls in the vicinity. To me, he's clearly ahead of Manziel. When I went there in practice, when I've watched the first 2 games, I would start Hoyer. I think the other thing is the opening 3 games, you got Pittsburgh. That'd be a nightmare for Manziel against their blitz packages. New Orleans would be the same thing all over again. Then you got Baltimore in week 3. So I'd let Hoyer go with it and then evaluate it after the first 3 games.
And you were with the Houston Texans as their general manager when David Carr was selected as a rookie and started right away. What advice would you give the Browns based on your own experience with having a rookie play right away?
Well, there's a lot of things here. First of all, we didn't really have an alternate. We didn't have a Brian Hoyer. Okay, our plan was never to start David Carr, but sometimes plans get changed based on the players you have at that point in time. The Browns inherited Hoyer, so they've got a guy that they can go start. And to me, Hoyer's better right now. So let's keep it simple. He's better. He's your best option to win. Manziel has a long ways to go. He did get better actually from week one to week 2. Believe it or not. A little better pocket discipline. I know people may be down on a little bit what they saw, but believe me, the first game, he had no pocket discipline. So he was better last night. So you see improvement. But he's a long ways away from playing. And Cleveland has a much better team than we did to surround him with. They also have Hoyer, and we didn't have a Hoyer. If we had Hoyer, we would have started Hoyer.
Talking to Charley Casserly of NFL Network. Now, another team that you've got a lot of experience with, you were previously the general manager in Washington. Their current quarterback hasn't shown an ability to avoid contact, and he bruised a thigh last night. What does that team need to do to get Robert Griffin III to protect himself a little bit more?
Well, I think you have a couple issues there with him. Let's talk about this one here. His sliding practice, for one. The one on the sideline when he got banged up, when I watched it on TV, I thought, well, I don't know if he had a chance to get down. Then I watched it on the coaching tape this morning, and he probably did have a chance to get down there. So he's got to learn it. He's got to work on his sliding technique so he's better. His biggest issue right now here, and you got to be patient with him, okay, because he's still a young guy. Last year, you might want to just write that off because he missed the offseason. But there's a lot of times there's balls he should be throwing. He's late. He's not hitting the back foot and getting it out there when he should. Guys are open. He's not throwing the ball. I would be a little concerned right now of where you are and where he's coming. But, again, it's second preseason game, new system. You got to be patient with him. Give him the year. Cousins isn't the answer, so putting him in there isn't going to solve you long range either, though.
And, Charlie, you talked about sliding practice, but, we've seen this time and again over the years where a guy talks about trying to protect himself and works on trying to protect himself, and then the light goes on and the competitive juices start to flow, and the desire to protect himself gets forgotten. Can you think of a quarterback who has learned how to protect himself over time?
Well, nobody comes to mind, but I'd say most quarterbacks over a period of time get it after a while and get better at it. You're right about the instincts, okay? Especially kids coming out of college now with spread offenses and the read option, and we have a little bit more of a running quarterback coming out of college, so it's a bigger adjustment for them. But most quarterbacks I've been around eventually get the idea that they got to do it. And then, RG3, I think he's improved some in that area. But he has to continue to work on improving it. You're correct.
Talking to Charley Casserly of NFL Network. Now, We saw a gesture last night from Johnny Manziel that speaks to a level of swagger and cockiness that may or may not be good. How cocky do you want your quarterback to be?
Well, you want him to play well, okay? So you want him to have confidence, okay? You don't want him to do stupid things and hurt the team, okay? So a guy can be cocky, and I've been around some cocky and confident individuals, and I've been around some quiet individuals. You want him to play well and have confidence in what he's doing. The most important thing is study, work hard, know what you're doing. That gets the respect of your teammates. The rest of this is show business for television, okay, and folks like us when we're talking here and have idle time to talk about stuff there. But it's confidence as opposed to cockiness, and that comes from studying and preparation and execution.
Does what Manziel did last night with the middle finger gesture to the Washington bench, does that become a factor if it's a close call between Hoyer and Manziel?
You go back to what they're going to do on the field and decide it there. Is it a consideration? Yeah, it's a consideration because if he's dumb enough to do things like that, that's going to cost you a penalty. So consideration, yes, but very slight.
Now in Dallas, they have a franchise quarterback who may or may not be able to recover completely and stay healthy after his second back surgery in 2 years. When you look at the Cowboys' overall roster right now, do you think there's a chance they're just going to be awful this season?
Yeah, there is a chance, okay, because defensively they're not very good. They can't stop the run. The linebackers aren't going to be necessarily run stoppers either. The strength on paper going into camp, they felt was their cornerback position. But right now, Scandrick's out. Claiborne hadn't played. Carr has to prove he can play better than he's played. So how do you stop somebody? It's going to be a problem. To me, their formula to win offensively, it relies upon their offense, staying healthy. Murray's the key. They lose Murray, then really they got problems on offense. But either they're going to have to play a time of possession game or they're going to have to score 30 points. And the defense, the secondary, where they were going to be the key is keep it in front of you. Don't give up the big play. Make them bleed on offense. Get to the red zone, gamble there, and hold them to some field goals. That was their formula to win. The secondary right now isn't holding up that bargain. So a lot of high-scoring games, and 500 might be an accomplishment for them.
Wrapping things up with Charley Casserly of NFL Network. Now, every year there's a team or two that surprises us, a team or two that we expected to be horrible. Give me a team or two that is on your radar screen that could turn it around dramatically from what they did last year.
Well, I don't know. This probably isn't quite the answer you want dramatically, but coming into camp, I thought Arizona was definitely a possibility in that area. Now losing, Dockett to me is a big loss for the defense there. But they finished on a high last year. The defense was legit. I figured the offense would take another step this year. Did a nice job in the draft, getting some help, especially with speed with receiver Brown from Pittsburgh State, and the other Brown who's been there has developed too. So they've added speed in that area. So that's one there. I think the Bears, because offensively we know they're pretty good. All right. And defensively, I think they did a nice job rebuilding the defensive line. I think the draft helped them in the secondary. So I got to believe that they could play better on defense. I think Mel Tucker can cut. Let me say this. I think Mel Tucker's a good football coach. Pasquinelli and Herring, who they hired as a veteran defensive position coaches, are good coaches. So I thought they were a team that could take a jump maybe to the next step there. The team that's at the bottom that has the potential to do it is Houston, but I just don't see it at the quarterback position for them.
Who do you think becomes the quarterback, not necessarily week one, but by the end of the year?
Savage. I just think Fitzpatrick will play himself out of the position. It's interesting. In last Saturday's game, they had a big game. Fitzpatrick had good stats, but he threw 2 balls in that game under pressure right up for grabs. And he did it in the first week, too, and his problem has been interceptions. That's part of it. The other one is he'll overrate his arm and try to make big plays when he should just take what's there. When I interviewed him in camp, he says, I get it. I don't need to do it. Sometimes you get it on the practice field, but don't get it in the game. So I think at the end of the year, they're out of it, and Savage goes in, and they begin to see what they have.
Great stuff as always, Charlie. We'll be talking to you again down the road, buddy.
All right, good to be with you now.
All right. There he was, Charley Casserly, NFL Network. Check him out on NFL Now.